We thank the Lord for giving us a blessed day today and the blessed weather. So to start our devotion this blessed day, we are going to stand and ocean anyone to cite the affirmation number 2 for us. Brother Benson, what is affirmation number 2? I love the Lord with all my heart, and thus I obey the Lord with all my heart. That is affirmation number 2. And with that said, that is what we'll look after today. And the title is, okay, it's not coming here. Okay. And the title, affirmation number 2 says, I love the Lord with all my heart, and thus I obey the Lord with all my heart. And because of that, the title, it's entitled Love. That is the title of our of our evening devotion today. Affirmation number 2, I love the Lord with all my heart, and thus I obey the Lord with all my heart. Now let's hear what the word of inspiration, what it has to tell us this blessed evening as we share together and learn from each other in this devotion. The precepts of the Decalogue are adapted to all mankind. When we talk about the precepts of the Decalogue, these are the biblical commandments of God. So when you say the precepts, the way of living or how you are keeping the 10 commandments which God has given you. And they were given for the instruction and government of all. So when we talk about the commandment, they adapt to all mankind, whether you are white, black, Chinese, brown, whatsoever color, any race, any tribe, they go to all mankind. Why? Because they were given for the instruction and government of all. 10 precepts, brief, comprehensive, and authoritative, cover the duty of man to God and to his fellow man. So we see the precepts, the 10 commandments which I've given, they cover the duty of us to our Father and to our fellow man. Not only that, and all based upon the great fundamental principle of love. So the 10 commandments, all of them, they are based upon the fundamental principle of love. Where there is no love, it's very hard for you to keep the commandments which God has given us. And the same commandments which God has given us, when we even apply them into our worldly view, they help us to live in harmony with one another, not to face consequences. Because they don't allow you, when you love your fellow man, you can't steal from your fellow man, and when you steal, you break the command, you break the rules of the country, you'll be arrested. Meaning, when we obey the commandments which God has given us, they are going to help us to live in harmony in one another, not only in the message, but also in the world. We continue. The two great principles of the law of God are supreme love to God and unselfish love to our neighbor. These are the two great principles of the law of God. Supreme love to God and unselfish love to our neighbor. So we see when we say, I love the Lord with all my heart, and thus I obey the Lord with all my heart, what it means. It comes when we say, I love, it tells that we should keep the commandments which He has given us. We should live in harmony with one another, with your brother. Whether you are whatsoever, whether you are coming from Western Province, Southern Province, you are coming from Mongu, Senanga, Sisheke, Lusaka, when we meet here, we should try by all means that we live with, in harmony with one another. The first 4 commandments and the last 6 hang upon or grow out of these 2 principles. Which 2 principles? Supreme love to God and unselfish love. So it's very important when we talk about love, brethren. Love, let's not take it in a view of loving our partners only. When we talk about love, mostly what comes in our mind, especially I remember when we are in the Laodicean church, what will come in our mind is the love, that which we give to our partners. But the love begins when you love God, you are going even to love your fellow man. Because you can't, it's very hard sometimes to hate your fellow man unless you love God. Or to hate God unless you love your fellow man. It doesn't work like that. John did not teach that salvation was to be earned by obedience. Many people they try to earn salvation from God through obedience, but that the inspiration says John did not teach that. Why? Listen, but that obedience was the fruit of faith and love. So when you talk about love and faith, now obedience that is the fruit which comes after. So what comes first is faith. After faith, then love. Love covers all the 10 commandments: loving God, loving our fellow man, and then obedience will come after. It is a fruit. Not showing obedience while you don't have faith and you don't love God. On that one again, it doesn't work like that. So we are learning that when we say I love the Lord with all my heart, it means we have to take the 10 commandments as they are and keep them, even the statutes which we have been given. Not only that, we need to extend the same love which we love our Lord with all our heart by showing the same love to our fellow men or our fellow brothers. Whether in the association, even out there, wherever we go, we need to show the same love. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. Luke 10:27. See also Deuteronomy 6, verse 4 to 5. In the 10 Commandments, these principles are carried out in detail and made applicable to the condition and circumstances of man. So we should try our level best, brethren, to show genuine love. Love is in 2 ways. There is love of pretense, whereby people they would say in the world that fake it till you make it. You are trying to pretend to love someone that you make it. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. What we need sometimes is to faith it till we make it. You put faith on it, then God will take care of the rest. The first 4 of the 10 Commandments are summed up in the one great precept. And since all the commandments are summed up in love, let's remember the word love. What did when we talk about love, it reminds me of the words Lucy gave when she was giving her presentation on History Day, that we should extend the same love to one another. Are summed up in love to God and man. It follows that not one precept can be broken without violating this principle. Which principle? The principle of love. Why? They are summed up to God and our fellow man. So when you break the commandments, you are violating this principle of love. When you break even one commandment, meaning you have violated the principle of love. Why? Because it says the first 4 of the 10 Commandments are summed up in the one great principle, of which is love. Thus, Christ taught his hearers that the law of God is not so many separate precepts, some of which are of great importance, while others are of small importance and may with impunity be ignored. Our Lord presents the first 4 and the last 6 commandments as a divine law and teaches that love to God will be shown by obedience to all his commandments. So the love to God can only be shown by obedience to all his commandments. When we show love, we have to be obedient to the commandments. Just like we have read, obedience does not make you to be a faithful person, but faith and love comes in. Then obedience are the fruits of being faithful and showing love to God. In concluding our devotion, it says, Patriarch and Prophets, page 306, paragraph 2 says, I, the Lord thy God, I am a jealous God. The close and sacred relation of God to his people is represented under the figure of marriage. And what happens when you go outside marriage? You commit adultery. And what is written here? Adultery being spiritual adultery, when you go outside the relationship which you have, you and your God. The displeasure of God against it is fitly called jealousy. So, brethren, let's try our level best to show love to God. By loving God, we are going to keep the commandments and the statutes which we have been given, and the same love we are going to extend it to our fellow brethren. This is the end of our evening devotion. I open